back again, this time to share a Christmas card. So I'm going to do some stitching, and I have the Spellbinders frosted stitch plate there. I'm going to use the Cocoa Greetings die set, also from Spellbinders. And then I'm going to use a sentiment set called Santa's Sippin' Sayings. So I'm just starting with my stitched panel. I am using Chiffon cardstock from Spellbinders and some floss from Stitchable cards. And here you can see I'm just pulling out the individual floss threads, and I'm going to use only 3. There's 6 in this strand, so I'm just going to use 3 of those because I find I can stitch better when it's a smaller thread. So I'm just going to stitch this through. When I start my stitching, I use a piece of double-sided tape to just adhere that loose end to the back of the card because no one's going to see that. And I just follow the stitching line guides on this die, and I will stitch this whole panel in this white floss that I got, again, from Stitchable cards. So I'm just going to keep going through, following those stitching lines. I'm not going to do this whole panel on video. I'm just going to kind of start it so you can see what I do. But every time I have to switch out my floss, I will use double-sided tape to adhere that to the back of the panel so that it stays in place. I know some people tie it off. I'm not that good at it, so I'll just use double-sided tape because who cares? So I'm just going to keep going through. I find this so relaxing. If you have never stitched on paper before for a card, I highly suggest that you try it. I love it. It's so relaxing to me. Sometimes I'll just cut out some stitch panels and I'll sit in the bed and I'll watch a show while I stitch on some paper. And that's what I do to relax. So here is my finished panel. You can see all my little stitched areas there, and on the back I have all of those loose ends taped. And now I have a piece of Nectar cardstock from Concord and Ninth, and I'll use that as the back panel behind my stitched piece. So I'm just going to come back in with my double-sided tape and put little pieces over each of the stitched areas on the back of this card. And then once I peel all the backer pieces off of that, I will use some liquid glue to help me adhere that down to my panel. So to get all of these little backer pieces off, I have to use a little sharp-ended tool. Be careful with these. You can poke your finger. You can also poke your finger with the needle that you use to stitch your card with, and I do that often, so just beware. Here I'm coming in with that liquid glue. I use it on top of the double-sided tape just to give me a little wiggle room before I adhere that down, because I'm not the best at adhering it down straight the first time. Now I have all of my little die cut pieces from the Cocoa Greetings die set. I'm using the deer today, but there's also a Santa and a penguin that you can make from that die set. So I cut all of my pieces from cardstock scraps in the colors that I wanted. I chose light pinks and light blues, or a light blue-green, I guess you would call it. And I am just going to assemble my little die-cut cocoa cup here. These are so cute. I love this so much. I love assembling die cuts. I don't know if you all do. You'll have to let me know in the comments, but just like stitching, it's just really relaxing to me. It's almost like assembling a puzzle is what it feels like to me. For the whipped cream topping here, I used for the solid back piece, I just used a piece of white cardstock, but then I took some glitter white cardstock for the detail piece on top. And I thought that turned out really cute. But do what you want if you decide to recreate this. Do what you want. So it's coming along here. I'm now assembling the little scarf. I love that it has the little detailed piece that you can use to put two different colors together. I'm just using two different shades of this same color of blue-green, just for a little bit of contrast, but it's very, very subtle. So I'm just going to assemble these here. These are tiny little pieces, a lot of these, so I highly recommend using tweezers. I like to use reverse tweezers because they just work best for me. You don't have to squeeze them to get them to hold on to something. And then I have a little candy cane there. So I'm just going to push those to the side. I got another piece of my Nectar cardstock from Concord and Ninth to use as my card base. And then I'm just using liquid glue to adhere that stitched piece to the top. And now I'm just going to kind of get an idea for where I want that deer to go. And then I'm going to finish assembling my little mug. These are so, so cute. And you'll have to stay tuned because I'm also going to make a matching tag to go along with this card. And that will be an upcoming video. Here I forgot to put my candy cane in before I adhered my whipped cream, so I just kind of pulled that off the back a little bit and fixed it, and now I'm putting my little snowflake on. Isn't that cute? Oh my gosh. Now I'm just going to use a little bit of foam tape on the back because I do want that to be popped up a little bit from my stitched piece. My stitched piece just naturally pops up from my card a little bit because of the thread that's on the back, but I still wanted my little deer to be up off the card a little bit because he is my focal point. So I'm just going to peel the backs off of this. This foam tape, I don't even remember where I got it from, but the backer on it is so difficult to get off. I was quite frustrated trying to get all of these little pieces off. So I'm just going to struggle, continue to struggle. It's a good thing I didn't record my voice during this process because I was tired. I was not wanting to fiddle with this stupid tape, but here we are. We do what we have to do. So again, putting a little bit of liquid glue on just so I have some time to straighten that up as I need to. And then for my sentiment on the front, I'm using the Merry and Bright sentiment press plate and dies from Spellbinders. I love these because as you saw, the die is one whole die, so you can foil or press your sentiments all at once and then cut them all out at once, and you can just have a bunch in your stash to pull out whenever you want, and that's exactly what I did here. So I chose this one to go up at the top, and I'm just putting some little pieces of foam tape on the back. I have to be careful where I place them because some of these areas are going over those stitched pieces, and so I want the foam tape to go in between those so that my sentiment is nice and even across the top. But I ran these through my BetterPress machine actually a few months ago, so that I had these on hand, and I just used the BetterPress black ink to press those onto some of the cotton cardstock that they recommend with the BetterPress. But you can also foil those if you want. I've done that before as well. Here I am just taking a panel that measures 5 1/4 by 4 inches. That's going to go on the inside of my card. And I chose a sentiment from the Santa's Sippin' Sayings stamp set. Just making sure it's straight. Using my T-ruler. Looks straight. So now I'm going to bring in my Versafine black ink to stamp that in. I really like this ink because it's a very fine detail ink. It doesn't smush out. It's very crisp and clean when you stamp it, if you stamp it correctly. The only thing about it is it doesn't dry immediately like a dye ink does. It stays wet for a little bit, so you have to be very careful not to smear it. So either set it to the side, let it dry for a little bit, or use a heat tool and dry that out and set it in place. I have ruined many sentiments and insides of cards because I was not patient enough. Here I'm just adding a few little embellishments from the Cocoa Greetings die set. So it has some snowflakes in there. So I'm just putting a little snowflake there in the bottom that matches the one that I put on my mug. And then there are some hearts. So I cut out 2 little pink hearts to put around my inside sentiment there. And that's going to be the inside of my card. I always like to put something on the inside that kind of ties it back to the front. So I don't like to just stamp a sentiment in there and be done. I like to put some sort of decoration that coordinates with the front design on my card. And then I'm just going to take some liquid glue, adhere that down to the inside. Beautiful. Love it. Now I decided I wasn't quite done. I decided I wanted to bring in some embellishments. So I don't believe these are available anymore from Trinity Stamps. They're just little pearl embellishments, but you could get pearl embellishments from many craft companies. So I just used 4 here and just put them on those little sections in between the diamonds on the card. And that's it. That's my cute little deer mug card from the Cocoa Greetings die set from Spellbinders. So if you enjoyed this card and you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing so that you can get notified of any future videos that I put out. And thank you all so much for watching, and stay tuned for my matching tag. Thanks all.